Whether it's the regular season or the off-season, we have you covered as we give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL news and insight that a fan could ask for. You're watching the Titan Upload Network. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Camp has begun. Everybody's excited. Good things are coming out. Some work still needs to be done. Coaches seem optimistic. Players seem to be ready to get to the first preseason game of the year. So a lot to talk about tonight. So really excited to get in and talk about football, talk Titans, and just in general, just enjoy everybody's company as we roll along as the night progresses. But of course, I can't do this without the help of my good friend and co-host Tyler Staggs of the 615 podcast and the BS Report. New episode out, by the way. Cop that if you get a chance, wherever you get your podcast at. Tyler, as always, happy Monday to you. We got some business to discuss.
We do, and happy Monday to you, buddy. Man, feels good to be back. We have some camp stuff to talk about with the Titans. It's going to be a fun show.
As always, guys, and we can't do this show without your support and all your love. So remember, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network. Or if you're just looking for individual stuff, check us out at the Power Hour 615, wherever you get all your content at on social media. Well, Tyler, don't want to waste a lot of time. Everybody's starting to pile in. The chat's going to start bumming up in a little bit. So what do you say we get this show on the road?
Let's do it.
Jumping into it at the top of the hour, getting into the kickoff right now. I'm your host, Michael Bishop. Let's do it.
And here's the kick.
So, Tyler, it's been a good week. And I'll say good in the sense of you have good things progressing. You have things that need to be worked on, which is just typical camp stuff that needs to go and be addressed. So let's start with the basic stuff. What has impressed you so far with this first camp that Brian Callahan is basically under control of?
So one thing that has impressed me so far, and I know some other people have hit on this, but just Brian Callahan in general, like going and talking to the media, I feel like as fans, the way he's answering questions, everything else, the way he's approaching things, it feels like we're getting so much more information. Like just with how open he's being, even with the injuries and all of that, like he's being upfront about it, saying what's going on. Hey, Calvin Ridley hurt his ankle, had him go check it out a little bit, come back, he's fine. Just how he's approaching all of that. That is one thing that's stuck out to me. Another thing is just, like you said, there's the ups and downs. With the offense, there's days where the offense has kind of put it on the defense a little bit more, but then the defense turns right around and makes it tough on the offense. So, a lot of back and forth, which you're going to see. So, yeah, those are some of the main things that stick out to me. And, I know another thing that a lot of people are talking about is the O-line struggling a little bit right now, but no pads on yet. And just got to remember, there's new pieces there. It's going to take a little time.
And it's a great point you bring up. I mean, we're going to start seeing the pads once that's regulated for this upcoming week. So I expect everything to be a night and day comparison of what we're seeing right now with guys going basically just in tops at this point. But how do you expect the padded practices to play out this week? What should we be looking for right now, and should be the main focal point once the pads go on?
I mean, really, once the pads go on, I I think the main focal point has to be the trenches. Like that's ultimately, like I mentioned, the O line without pads on. People have been talking about how they're struggling, and I get it. The defense doesn't have pads on either. They seem to be winning, but this is when you can really, get your hands on each other a little bit more. Let's see how much more, if the defensive line really is that much more dominant than the offensive line right now. Also, seeing, some of these newer guys on the D line, specifically Tavondre Sweat, seeing him out there in pads going through it all. So I think that's where a lot of eyes need to go, for these first padded practices. Obviously, you have your wide receiver and DB battles, but I think the trenches is really where the focus needs to be right now.
And you talk about just night and day comparisons with what Brian Callahan's done and what a Mike Vrabel led training camp looked like. And it is a night and day comparison, as I said. But the difference here is, we're getting information out a lot quicker, especially on players. Cheeto Awuzie, unfortunately, going to be missing some time with an injury for the next few weeks. But it's an opportunity for some of these younger cats to step up and have an opportunity to compete and try and shoot for a job. So who are you going to be looking for right now to potentially get some time logged in? Who's an intriguing prospect while Cheeto's basically rehabbing at this injury point?
An intriguing prospect. I'm gonna go with the rookie, Jarvis Brownlee Jr. I think because this is gonna show us. I know when he was drafted, we kind of looked at the cornerback room as a whole, and I know for me personally, I was like, okay, I could see him being a guy that slides into like that fourth corner spot, or have Snead and Cheeto on the outside, then McCreary and Brownlee on the inside. But it's good to see if he can move to that outside role as well in case Snead or Cheeto miss some time. And another guy that I want to keep an eye on, because it would be, if things could turn around for him, the comeback story would be amazing, and that's Caleb Farley. I want to, I'm rooting for him personally. Like, especially everything he's been through, if he could turn it around and have this great comeback story, that would be awesome.
And yeah, I mean, Caleb Farley's an intriguing name, especially with this year in camp. The uncertainty and just the unfortunity that he's gone through in his NFL career at this point. Trial by error, he's had to face some very, very adverse situations. So it'd be nice to actually see something kind of go his way, at least for once, since he's been in the NFL. So Titans fans definitely rooting for him. I know I'm rooting for him as well. So we'll see how that situation plays out in that position battle. Shout out to you, Lou, man. Good seeing you, buddy. And good question by Amar. I wanted to bring this up because I think it's a good topic to jump into right now. So Will Levis has definitely had some struggles right now. It's not been a perfect camp by any stretch of the imagination. So is it cause for concern right now going forward if it continues to struggle? Or, is it just better that he's struggling in camp right now in general?
I think it's better that he's struggling in camp right now in general. Especially once you put together everything that he's been working on changing this offseason. First, he's having to learn a new offense. Then, changing up his throwing, and all the thing with his quarterback coach, everything he's working on, he's trying to get everything put together. And right now, this is the time where you would rather see the struggles. The start of camp, struggle early on, you know, depends on how far it continues. Like if it continues on into the season, like, you start getting to mid-season and those struggles are still there, then yeah, it's cause for concern then. But right now, early in camp, not that concerned about it.
All right. So at this point, let's go and play overwhelming, underwhelming. And this is basically just us picking the players we think have been a little overwhelming in camp and underwhelming at the same time. And everybody in the chat, we want to get your take as well. So first, let's start with overwhelming at this point. So Tyler, who's overwhelmed you for this first week of camp? Who's just exceeded your expectations?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to say, I'm going to say Tyler Boyd coming in, new team with a new quarterback. And even though he's, been a part of a Brian Callahan offense before, he's still having to get his timing down with a new quarterback, figure out what the quarterback likes. The quarterback knows what he likes. So, and I mean, he's been, one of Levis's favorite targets. So, I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd.
I'd agree. Tyler Boyd is definitely picking up everything and getting himself comfortable in this system once again. And him and Will Levis have been putting on a pretty good rapport as far as they've been working together, especially during the offseason and the trip to Cabo. You see that that's paying off. So I would have to say for me, Tony Pollard's been very impressive, especially with them utilizing him as a pass catcher. You can never have enough weapons for a young quarterback. And I mean, I'll be honest, I was underwhelmed by Pollard signing at the time. I felt that this was a team that was probably going to go younger at the running back route, maybe go after somebody in the later rounds of the draft or even unsigned. But I'm very impressed with the way he's handling things right now. He's gone out there, he's making plays. Even with it being early in the process, I still feel that Tony Pollard could have a very big year this year as a potential playmaker for this offense. That's not a wide receiver or tight end. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how the playbook realigns to get Tony Pollard involved. And if it's anything like the Cowboys used in Dallas, or even at the point where you could just imagine what Brian Callahan would use his other running backs for, I'm intrigued. So I think he's done a great job. Mar brings up Keith Murray. And I mean, Keith Murray's a great choice right there. I mean, let's be honest. Keith Murray was one of those signings that just had every Titans fan just scratch their head, where it's like, I don't see how this fits in. He does not grade well. He just hasn't performed well. I mean, is it just a change of scenery, Tyler? What's the biggest difference here?
For me, it's tough to say on that. I mean, it could be the change of scenery. It could just be, some camp flashes right now. Like, can he consistently keep up what he's been doing? I know when we talk of, like you said, the Kenneth Murray signing, when it first happened, I wasn't blown away by it. And I'm not going to let what happens in camp just completely sway me to being like, man, this guy's it at our middle linebacker spot. But it's nice to see him popping up, making plays, especially in coverage, where, that's one of the areas where he struggles at. But we saw this past week, he was making some plays in coverage. So maybe that's something that Denard Wilson has been working with him on. And maybe some things are clicking a little bit.
Which gets us to the next point. Got to talk about the underwhelming players right now. And of course, everybody in the chat, let us know who your underwhelming player of week 1 of camp is. Tyler, who has just really just kind of made you walk away going, man, Would have liked to seen more from him.
Yeah. It's a good question because, there are some names that I feel like I haven't really heard as much, but, that's not to say that they haven't done anything. Underwhelming. I'm just going to go with the right side of the offensive line. Like I feel like that's we've been hearing about O-line struggles and watching some videos from practices. You can see that pressure's getting back there. I know Latham's had a couple of struggles as well with like Arden Key and that speed coming off of the edge, but I'm going to go with just the right side of the offensive line. I was hoping it would look a little bit better at this point.
And that's a fair point. I mean, while we're still early in the process, we understand that there's still changes that could be made if they feel that there's no progression going forward. I mean, Bill Callahan's not a miracle worker by any means. He can only do so much with the guys he has in front of him. I do think maybe it'll just be one of those situations we got to wait and let these guys build rapport with each other, get confident, and understand what it's like to work as a full unit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's early in this process, understandable. You feel a little underwhelmed. I'm going to go a different direction, and I know I'll probably get a little bit of flack of this, but I've got a good reason. And for me right now, it's L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay.
But hear me out on this. I understand it's a load management situation. I understand you're not trying to overwhelm your guy that you paid quite a truckload of money for to help shore up the secondary, and you're not trying to get him hurt before the year starts. That being said, I kind of want a taste.
Right.
If I'm in the candy store and I'm looking for a specific type of candy that I just want to just hit the taste buds, and I know I'm just excited to see it, and I just go there and it's not there,
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhat of a letdown. And I'm not saying I'm totally let down. I'm just slightly disappointed, and I hope we get to see a little bit of what he brings to the table.
Right.
As I said, I understand the game plan. I understand it completely. Just want to see a little something.
Yeah. just need that little taste to
just
get
to
you
get
through.
by, just to get through. Get me a little more excited, because I was already excited when he came and he showed up and was going to be, the key piece in the secondary going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep me on edge a little bit. I want to see him just get out there and just get on some of those guys. I want to see the matchups with Calvin Ridley and with D-Hop, Just want to see that competition there.
Yeah.
Makes it even more engaging. But like I said, I get it. But you got to just give me a little something. So that being said, to finish it all out, Tyler, week 2 heading into camp, pads are going on. Give me one bold prediction that you think is going to happen this week, and also want to hear what you guys think in the chat. Give us your bold prediction for week 2 of camp.
Bold prediction for week 2 of camp. I'm going to say you see Levis and the receiving core start hitting a different level this week. Like, really start clicking and giving this secondary troubles.
And I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. I think you've got to look at the linebacking core right now. I think you're going to see Kenneth Murray continue to show up and show out next week. I think even with the pads, he's going to progress and continue to do well in this system. And that's a bold take to give, especially knowing that we could see a completely different dynamic with pads going on. But I'm going to
Right.
ride this horse and see how it goes. Regardless of however it is, week 1 is in the books. There are some positives to take away. There's some negatives to take away. But as we've been preaching throughout the whole process, when camp rolls around, as long as they're doing it now, as long as they're making these mistakes now, they're teachable. If they're doing this in October, November, December, then things start getting a little more convoluted and a little more murky. And that's the thing with this team. We're already at that situation. Most people don't even want to give any kind of bold prediction outside of this team's just middle of the road. Because it's too risky to say that this team's going to like be the one that flips it around and steals the division or gets into the playoffs, because it's uncharted waters. However, they'll easily go right middle of the road, or they'll just go they're really bad. Seems to be the synopsis. Which I get it. Don't like it a lot of the times, but I get it. But hey, we're talking football. You got to love that. Got to love the fact that there's progressive things happening with this offense, and that just makes it even more exciting. It's no more of your daddy's Titans. This isn't those days anymore. We've moved into some very, very different territory.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of however it goes, I'm very excited to see this offense continue to progress, and hopefully Will Levis, if he keeps making mistakes, hopefully they're correctable right now. So, quarterback's got to throw. He's just got to be accurate and throw.
Yeah. I mean, Titans fans, just think it could be worse with Will Levis right now. He could be throwing 5 interceptions in a training camp practice.
Could be a Danico Autry situation and get suspended 6 games for PEDs.
I mean,
Yeah, when I went there and I said it because we love Danico here. I hate that for him. I really do, but it is what it is. Whether you knew or you didn't know, that's just part of it. You get caught, you're gonna get punished. So hate that for him. Hate that for the Texans fans because you bought them. Can't have buyer's remorse now. It is what it is. But I'll tell you what you shouldn't have remorse about. Don't go anywhere, because episode 5 of The Lost Rings is coming up next. We're going to take a quick 20-second break. When we roll back, we're going to talk about the 2008 Tennessee Titans and how they could have won it all in a great year of 2008. So hang tight real quick. Take a quick 20-second breather, and we'll be right back after these words.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Love the chat's blowing up. You guys are awesome. You're giving some great insight and some great takeaways as well. Get into the comments real quick before we go any further. But of course, I got to say, if you love what you're watching, and if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network, whether it be Facebook, whether it be X, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Twitch. Check it out. Subscribe, like, pledge, donate. I don't know what some of these other ones do. Do it because you love the shows and you love us and you love what we're doing. We appreciate everything that you guys do because you're the superstars here. And this show and this network, of course, is made for you. Shout out to the Upload Network as well. Good seeing everybody on the other end. They're getting it shared out, so you can always rely on Boss Man and Rossi to get it done for us.
Mm-hmm.
More also says it could be better, especially in drills designed for offense to succeed. And I agree.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, again, that for me, that goes back to still working on getting the timing down. These guys in a new offensive system, it's gonna take a little bit. And now they're working on implementing more and more every day. So yeah, it could be better especially in drills designed for the offense to succeed. But again, if you're gonna have the miscues, first couple of weeks account.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes: if you're going to make mistakes, make them early in the year because they're the most correctable. Man, you got a lot. Tyler's got a lot going on, guys. And I'm just gonna say, and I won't go too far into it because I don't know if he wants to get into it or not. But believe me, August is going to be quite a month for you.
It is. It is. Another little one be here in August, so hands are about to be full.
And of course, I got to give a shout out to Mom because she's doing all the work.
That's right.
Shout out to her to make sure that you're able to be here on the show tonight and get all this talking done. So, we can't keep you here too long because you're needed.
Right. Big props to her.
You're in 360 daddy mode, so you're like locked in. I understand. No worries. Gonna get you all took care of one way or the other. But like I said, this guy's been busy. Or if I got a point this way, this guy's busy. I don't know opposites. That's why I do this. All right, guys. The Lost Rings has been a blast, and I have absolutely loved doing every minute with you. We've had fun doing it, but we've only got 2 episodes left. But that's just how it goes. You can call it filler. You can call it whatever you like. It's been a joy to do, and I just hate to see that we're coming to a conclusion with it. So 2 episodes left. Already got 1 on the docket. So Tyler, ready to take a trip down memory lane and change some things?
Let's do it.
Jumping into segment number 2, let's hit the Lost Rings for episode 5 for the 2008 Tennessee Titans. So let me set the narrative as I always have. 2007, the Tennessee Titans come off a very successful year, especially in the last 2 months. They go on a nice little run, finish the year out 10-6, sneak into the playoffs as a wild card. But Tyler, unfortunately, guess who they had to face?
Man, I'm trying to remember. I'm wanting to say, I'm racking my brain. It was it the Chargers they played?
Very good. It was the 2007 San Diego Chargers, which were juggernauts in a running game with LT and that amazing offensive line. Titans draw them in the playoffs and run into a buzzsaw, unfortunately. That was also the year where it looked like the Chargers could go all the way if it wasn't for a pesky 16-0 Patriots team that derailed all their hopes and dreams once again. But I digress. The Tennessee Titans showed dramatic improvement after an 8-8 campaign after Vince Young was drafted, and in year 2, it looks like that he was going to be on a trajectory to superstardom, especially knowing that this team had everything in the right direction going forward. So let's start in 2008. With Lindell White leading the way for this team, it seemed like, they could go a bunch of different directions in the draft, but there was one young man that caught their eye from East Carolina and had just juggernaut-like speed. So after wowing and dazzling at the combine, Chris Johnson was definitely catching the eyes of a lot of NFL scouts and talent and coaches, and therefore the Tennessee Titans thought, this kid is something special. And in true Jeff Fisher fashion, he had to have him. And have him he did. Drafted him 18th overall in the 2008 NFL Draft. Chris Johnson was officially a Tennessee Titan, and the trajectory of this team was changed for at least the next few years, knowing that they had a potential dynamic weapon. So, Tyler, let's look at this team and what they did with all the pieces they had in place. And of course, the reemergence of Javon Curse was a big piece for this defense as well. And what a defense this was coming into a major year where you had stellar names of Keith Bullock, you had Dave Ball, you had Javon Curse, you had Kyle Vandenbosch, Cortland Finnegan, Stephen Tulloch, Albert Hainsworth. This was quite a defensive front. So, all in all, in a year where this team was celebrating its 10th anniversary as becoming the Tennessee Titans, this year was shaping up to be something special. In their first 11 wins of the year, rolled out 11 straight, and this team was doing it without the help of Vince Young. Spoiler alert. Because things had apparently been growing sour. There was just discord and even a report of just turmoil, so to say, that Vince Young just wasn't very much welcome into this organization as he was. So Kerry Collins had to step up for an injured player, especially with so much uncertainty in his future. And Kerry Collins did not get as much credit as he deserved for guiding this team.
No. I mean, 14-year vet, had to step in after, when Young went down in the first game. And, while the stats may not blow you away, Kerry Collins did just enough to help this team succeed in the 2008 season.
And this had become a ground and pound team. As good as Kerry Collins was able to just take the reins and handle business at the quarterback aspect, the heart and soul was in the running game.
Mm-hmm.
Newly drafted Chris Johnson was a beast and unstoppable. His speed was just damn near just uncatchable at times. And on the other end, Lendale White was the thunder to the lightning. And boy, how much fun was that in those days where you had dynamic backs that were given defenses fits. Regardless, though, as dynamic as those players were, we go back to the defense. Many close games this team was in. Many. And you almost felt like this was showing shades of like really good Ravens teams that had all elite defenses that could win this thing. Almost like in their 2000 year. You're almost afraid to say it out loud. Truth was, this was shaping up to be something the Titans fans never would have expected in their wildest dreams. This team was on a mission. And in that mission, with the 11 straight wins they had gotten at home, an impressive win at Thanksgiving in Detroit where they shellacked them, with one of the best defenses in the NFL at that time of the year, and winning their second AFC South title since its inception in 2002, everything was coming full face. The Colts seemed to be having a down year. Tom Brady was out with a major injury, so the Patriots were good, but they weren't good without their starting quarterback. And even teams right then, Tennessee had run away in the AFC and was in a division of their own. The only close team that would even come to their success was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's the cool part, Tyler. 13-3, once again, second time in history that this team has done that. Well, third time, actually, I apologize. Locking down the first seed. So the road to the Super Bowl had to go through Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Hainsworth was just looking at that picture of Albert Hainsworth right there. That man was massive.
Yes.
And he worked so well in a Jim Washburn defensive line. I mean, give Jim Schwartz and Jim Washburn the credit. They knew how to utilize his talent.
Right.
And I mean, Chad, that's fair. That's fair. Especially after he took the deal with Washington. He probably would have been better going to Tampa Bay at that time. But I guess that's another show in itself. However, though, Big Albert wasn't the only one that was a big key component in this team, where they boasted 8 Pro Bowlers for 2008. And that's quite an impressive list, especially with Kerry Collins getting a last-minute nod of the year. Michael Ruse was an amazing left tackle for this team. First year in the league, Chris Johnson, undeniable. Cortland Finnegan. Cortland was scrappy, and I don't think people realize how scrappy he was. For a kid that got taken, in the last round of the draft and looked like he had no business being on an NFL field, that kid could ball.
Yes. I mean, when you were his size, like you said, taken in the last round, you got to have that scrappy side to you. And he wouldn't take it he wouldn't take nothing from anyone. I mean, he never backed down no matter how big the receiver was opposite of him.
Not to mention, somebody brought this comment up last week on X, and I agree. If Michael Griffin was playing for this team now, oh my gosh, how good would this team? How good would that secondary be?
Oh,
I loved Michael Griffin, and it just broke my heart the fact that he never had the playoff success that he deserved. It really did. Like that just blows my mind thinking about that. And of course, you top it off with center and future Hall of Famer Kevin Mawai, who I felt the Titans stole from the Jets, and it blew my mind. I thought he was going to be a Jet for life.
Right.
I really thought he was going to finish his career there, but the fact the Titans got him and cemented him into that position, it just blew my mind. It's crazy the fact that how many great offensive linemen Tennessee has been able to get. I wish we could crack that filter back open once more and try and get some of that talent. The Kevin Mawais and the Steve Hutchinsons and the Michael Ruse and the David Stewarts. Let's get that pipeline open again, man. It just drives me nuts. Because you look throughout all these time periods, and that 2008 team's offensive line was critical to the success of this team.
Very. What was it? They gave up 12 sacks on the year?
Just about 12. That was one of the best. That was one of the best units in the league. That wasn't the Steelers. And of course, everybody's chiming in on the chat as well. Agreed, Chad. But that was a very stout offensive line, and it really is our culture as well. It's been heartbreaking the last 3 years at how bad we've gotten at developing talent, but I feel very confident in Bill Callahan's ability, and I think it won't be a problem to turn it around. And we got 3 cornerstone pieces that are going to do well for Will Levis. And that's the other selling point, Chad. This was not any kind of team that would excite you. I remember every day you'd watch ESPN or any of the sports networks. They were continually just winning games, and they were just blowing the Titans off. And it wasn't until they finally beat the Colts, and they're like, man, I think we should be taking this team serious. So all that talent. At running back, you've got a 1-2 punch. You've got a defense that's led by Jim Schwartz, arguably one of the hottest coordinators in the NFL at that point, is more than likely going to go and get a major job wherever he wants to go. But at that point, you got to ask the $1,000,000 question with everything that was aligned for the Titans this year in 2008. What happened? Turnovers. And a lesser point, because I don't want to take away the turnover aspect, bad officiating. Well, it seems like in a lot of certain other games, the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be the Achilles heel of the Oilers. The Baltimore Ravens has been a very big pain in the ass for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
And just like in 2001, where everything was lined up for that team, the Titans weren't able to capitalize on their mistakes. And this was basically a smash mouth type of football game where Chris Johnson was basically bent in half almost. Calls were missed. And as much as I want to try and put this on the refs, and I'm going to say the refs are partially to blame on this game, I still have to look at the turnovers. And 3 turnovers are critical, especially an Algie Crumpler fumble on the Baltimore one, where it could have just put this game away.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee's defense was damn near unstoppable. And Tyler, I'll be honest with you. As bad as that Bengals loss was a few years ago, I'm still angry with this one, even more so than that. Because you couldn't have asked for everything to line up like that. And I know some people are going to have different preferences, and that's fine. To me, this one was just an opportunity that was squandered away from a very special team. Even with everything that had been said, this wasn't a team that was flashy. It wasn't a team that was exciting. They weren't reeling off highlights other than Chris Johnson. I'm sorry. There probably weren't a lot of Kerry Collins jerseys in the stands, is what I'm saying.
No.
Kerry Collins was just good enough to get the job done. Chris Johnson was the future. But Baltimore, with a young unknown at the time with Joe Flacco, basically came in and just did enough to basically help wield this Ravens team to a win. And the Titans just lost too many turnovers to make a difference. Even just talking about this, it makes me sick. But that's the beauty of the lost rings. We're flipping the narrative here. We're trying to find Super Bowls, and we're going to finish this out on a high note. So, Tyler, I'm going to switch the narrative here and give back those turnovers the Titans lost. And the Titans aren't going to lose the turnover battle. They're going to win by forcing the Ravens to turn over in the final minutes, and the Titans flip the score in still a very defensive fashion game. Tennessee will win this game in my alternate version, 13-10, and will face the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the same premise will happen. There will be too much for the Steelers to overturn. As good as their wide receivers were, as good as Ben Roethlisberger was at the time, that defense was just too much to stifle them once again. And with another steady dose of the running game, that's the difference here. The Titans lock their ticket to Super Bowl 43. So let's go ahead and have another rematch with the most infamous character the Tennessee Titans know of, Kurt Warner, in Raymond James Stadium. We are making history in this process. So it is the Titans versus Kurt Warner, part 2. How are we going to do this? I'll give you the floor first. Give me your take.
My take, I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Run game, working all year long, a little bit of smash, a little bit of dash. Keep going with that ground game and let that defense do what it's done all year and dominate offensive lines and offenses.
I agree with the running part. The difference is Arizona had an amazing wide receiver core both Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitzgerald. The thing with this Arizona team was people forget they were a wild card team that made it here. They shouldn't have even been here. By a lot of luck and a lot of good plays at the end of the game, Arizona hung around and just made life miserable for everybody. So they were like on a Cinderella run of their own. But the clock will strike midnight here for Cinderella, unfortunately. And how it ends, you got to stick with what got you here in the first place. A healthy Chris Johnson, Lendale White are just too much for this defense that doesn't have the linebacking core to stop them. And the defense does just enough to give Kurt Warner, which is not the Kurt Warner of 99, but a Kurt Warner that's basically running for his life from a defensive front that is just stifling at times. So for the Cardinals, the clock strikes midnight, but for the Titans, history has been rewritten once again, and now winning their third Super Bowl since coming to the state of Tennessee, I give them the win 30-20. The running game's the difference here, and of course, rest in peace to the GOAT kicker, Rob Baronis, who was able to patch in a few extra kicks to just give them a more comfortable lead. The Tennessee Titans now own Super Bowl trophies in two decades since coming to Tennessee. So the counter now moves to 5. And Jeff Fisher should be very happy there. So
very, very happy.
Three Super Bowls under Jeff Fisher now. He's obviously built his resume for the Hall of Fame whenever he leaves. So now the Titans, 3 banners for the state of Tennessee, 2 for Houston. All of them belong to the Adams family.
Love it.
And oh, by the way, Albert Haynesworth now owns 2 Super Bowl rings. Fun fact. Keith Bullock owns 2 Super Bowl rings as well. Both of them obviously now on a trajectory to the Hall of Fame as well.
And that would give Javon Curse 3.
That would give exactly. So Javon Curse, now he's got a very clear path to Canton, Ohio. And he's going to be talked about, especially with some of the great defensive edges of the game. So, I mean, we're talking even with the injuries that he endured in Philadelphia. And, of course, if you count the Super Bowl that he went to Philadelphia, in his career, he's now gone to 4 Super Bowls and won 3. Not too shabby from the kid from Florida.
No, not at all.
So, good for him. Good for Tennessee. Good for getting that bad taste out of our mouth and actually finishing the thing off properly. So, with all that being said, that concludes the 2008 Tennessee Titans, a team we wish would have done something with all the talent that they had and just was on a trajectory to something special. At least here and at least now, they'll be able to finish it off the way it was supposed to be written. And, of course, with that, we've only got 1 episode left. So, as the Lost Rings has started and become quite the best thing that we could do, well, all we can do now is just at least dream. I mean, great point here. Fisher basically is a legend at this point. He also says, I don't know if it was worse that time or the first time. They're all pretty bad. I mean, even if it was a dream, it was a beautiful dream. And I mean, yeah, Lou, we talked about like other teams that could have won. I know the 2003 team was a discussion point, but I just don't think anybody was beating that Patriots team in 2003. I think we both came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
As close as that game was, we kind of played just the most realistic standards that we could go with. There were some good teams, and then there were some teams you're like, man. And believe me, we got a little bit of flack for like the Warren Moon teams, and we were like, well, if they would have won a Super Bowl in that decade, then the Titans wouldn't be in Nashville. So we had to take that into effect. But regardless, it's been a fun series. We have one episode left that'll air next Monday. So we'll take a quick 30-second break. And when we get back out here, we love you. We mean it. You've showed up and showed out in the comments. But guys, we got to send you back out in the world. But before we go, we'll close up shop the right way. A quick 30-second break. We'll be right back after this message.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Guys, you are phenomenal. You showed up and showed out once again. You have given us a phenomenal show, phenomenal comments, phenomenal takes. You are the reason why the Titan Upload Network is a success and continues to be a success, and we are excited for the 2024 year. Whether it's a good year, whether it's a bad year, we're going to have fun regardless because you guys show up and show out for us, whether it's Upload, whether it's the Power Hour, whether it's Rossi. You know what you like. We give you good content, and we continue to give you good content because you deserve nothing but the best, and that's what we're going to bring you at the Titan Upload Network. So before we go any further, all the love in the world to you guys, and of course, round of applause. And of course, guys, as you remember, sharing is caring. Don't forget to share the show out. You're going to give us a like, share the show out to all your Titans friends and buddies, and of course, any NFL fan in general, because we don't care if you support the Texans, the Jaguars, the Colts, the Scrubby Dubbies, if that's a team. We love talking football 24/7, 365, if we could go 24/7, 365. But, football is what we do here, and business is good because you guys make it a big success. All right, Tyler, we love that everybody showed up and showed out, but now it's time to shut up shop. We have got to get everybody out here in the real world. So ready to hit the theme music.
Let's do it.
Jumping into the last one. Give me the music.
Closing time. Good night, losers.
And to close it all out, as it was announced last week, Netflix will be dropping a new sports talks show as they do topics of interest every year. This year, Steve McNair's situation has popped up with, unfortunately, the murder of Aaron McNair airing August 20th on Netflix, which leads us to the debate. Is it going to be reverent or a miss piece? I want to hear everybody's take on this. Do you think this should have been made? Do you feel if it is going to live up to the hype? And do you think that this is just going to be a money grab? We want to hear your take on it. So, Tyler, I want to hear what you think first. The murder of Aaron McNair, reverend or a miss?
Man, I really hope it's not going to be a miss. I'm going to go reverent and hope that it's not a miss and that they're not just doing this to air dirty laundry.
I really had to give this some thought. You look back at what Netflix did last year with the pieces they covered, well, with Johnny Football, with the 2008 Florida Gators. And you try and take some revenants to it. You don't want to basically just make it like you're trying to sell dirty laundry at that point. I think Netflix did a good job at balancing out on some of the segments. I think some of the things I could have lived without knowing, but I mean, I get it. You're trying to generate interest. You're trying to ask the questions that a lot of people don't want to hear answers to. That's just part of it. And I think with this and a lot of Tennessee fans, it's a very soft spot, especially with the way it's all aired. And I mean, every year we've talked about the Steve McNair situation on the 4th of July ever since I've been here. I've always took great care not to make that the focal point. I don't want to sell the narrative of how it ended. Steve McNair's life, I've said the best analogy I can ever give is like watching a really good movie with a horrible ending. So right now, I don't know what Netflix is going for here. I hope it's to give the full perspective and not try to tarnish what legacy Steve McNair has built up, because he had did some very amazing things for the community. He means a lot to this community. You know, I can't speak a lot for the young woman's situation, and I don't want to put like any kind of just disparaging thing on her because she has family as well in the situation. I don't condone what she did, but I can't condemn fully, especially knowing people that suffer with that kind of just mental illness, because I don't want to seem two-sided or even one-sided for that matter, because it's a delicate situation. So that being said, I genuinely hope that Netflix gives a perspective on just the story of how this transpired and just show extreme care, because Steve's family's already been through this before. They've already, a football life's touched on this. And I guess they went as far as they wanted to go with it and content wise. I hope Netflix isn't trying to just sell this out just to catch, to catch views for something that sells. And that's the thing, the murder side of things sells on TV. So handle it with reverence. I want the truth to be told on both sides, but it's just take great care with the legacy of not only Steve McNair, but of this woman as well. Because like I've said, if there was just something going on with her, I think it's important to remember, anybody that's struggling with any kind of illness internally, that there's help out there for them. Some people just have just a lot of just demons in their past, and I don't know this woman's story. So if that's one part of the narrative they're trying to tell, then that's fine. Mistakes were made in this, and ultimately it cost two people their lives. So that's where I just want the revenant to come in and just be the selling point here, that your actions and your consequences for those actions can cause a lot of harm. And I know that's a tough truth to swallow, especially with Steve McNair and the situation that he was in with this woman, but it's understandable that this is a situation that a lot of people have a hard time discussing. But I think with just reverence to it and the subject matter, and not trying to put just anyone in a dark light of the situation, it's important that both stories are fairly and representatively fairly told. So I hope that's what Netflix is going for. I've been very careful on this subject matter, especially when discussing it, as I've said. I just hope that Netflix takes care as well, because it would be a disservice to have something with this kind of platform and you gain this many views and you basically just make a situation even more murky than it already is. So that's what I hope for. It's going to air regardless of how we feel about it or whatever. But I want both sides to be fairly represented. And that being said, we'll go ahead and close it out with our favorite game, Bet You Didn't Know. So Tyler and I ask questions about each other and try and get any kind of answer or laugh out of it. And I think we need a bit of humor at this point right now. So Tyler, you get the floor tonight. So you're up with your first question.
My first question for you is going to be, if you could pick anyone in the world to sit down, drink a beer, and just hang out with, who would it be?
Man, that's a really loaded question because there's a lot of people I would love to sit down and have a drink with. And I mean, not all of them are famous people. I never got to have a beer with my dad and just talk about just life in general. So, I mean, that would be one I would definitely just cherish because we never had that moment. I guess as basically as it would sound, I'd love to have a beer with alive or, not alive today, John Lennon, Stanley Kubrick, people that I enjoyed growing up. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would be very fun to just sit and have a drink with.
Okay.
We've got a lot in common. So, if ever he catches this, Junior, would love to sit down and just talk with you. Just man to man. You're my kind of people. Wouldn't mind having a drink with the boys if they'd ever invite us on there, wink, wink.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd be down for the beer Olympics. Don't know what happened there, but I'm not condoning drinking. I'm just saying if I could. If you're underage, don't do it, kids. It's bad for you. Then when you turn 21, it's really, really good. All right, Tyler. So for you, my question would be, since you've been a frequent visitor to Nissan Stadium, what is one restaurant you would like to see in the new stadium? Because obviously you got to eat, you got to have a good meal, and it's pretty fast and quick, and they got good options there. What's one thing you would love to see at the new stadium that they don't have?
Oh man.
And don't say Chick-fil-A because they're not going to be open on Sunday. They don't do it at Mercedes. They don't do it at Mercedes Superdome, and that's just not going to happen. So I'm just going to cut that right there.
Believe me, Chick-fil-A was the first one that popped in my mind, and I had already told myself that. I was like, they're not going to be open, so it does no good. Oh man. Give me a Buffalo Wild Wings in there.
So B-dubs?
Yeah, give me a B-dubs in there.
Do you think they'd be able to handle that traffic though? I'm not even hating on their ability to get the food out. I'm just saying, it's been kind of hit or miss, and I'm just being honest.
I get where you're coming from.
Go ahead.
No, you can go on.
From my standpoint, I know Whataburger's been growing in popularity. I figured that might be one of the new faces in there. So
that
makes kind of sense. Point. And they are a sponsor of the Titans.
That's a good point. Whataburger would be good. I was trying to, just think like, okay, what are you have like foods that when you think football, you just kind of think of certain foods. And of course, after clearing my mind of Chick-fil-A since they wouldn't be open, wings popped in my head. But yeah, Whataburger would be. I could go for some Whataburger in the stadium.
I mean, there you go. We're throwing ideas out all the. We're throwing ideas out tonight, man. Somebody needs to start throwing us a little bit of props over here. So
That's right.
anybody that's like doing PR for the new stadium, I'm just saying, you got Whataburger as a sponsor. Just throwing that idea out there. That free idea out there, by the way. You could at least send some coupons or a shirt. But I digress. Regardless of that, we'll get those one of these days. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching the show tonight. You've been phenomenal. Your comments have been phenomenal. You have been phenomenal in general. And as always, just a round of applause to you guys one more time. Before we get out of here, make sure you like the show, help it grow, follow us on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network. It is going to be a busy month for us. Tyler, we got football in a few days, right? The Hall of Fame game is going to be on Thursday. So Bears, Texans, we got some football to talk. We're going to have some football to talk about, but Titans football, not even a week and a half around the corner. It's going to be kickoff before you know it for the Titans, so we're going to be excited about that. So Upload, Rossi, you're going to have some shows coming this week down the pike. Upload has already had Rossi on Sunday. We're going to keep doing our thing on Mondays. It's going to get busier and busier. The last episode of The Lost Rings airs next Monday with the final team that we touch on, and it'll be the Titans' last opportunity to try and make up for that missed game to get to Super Bowl 54. AFC South Roundtable coming back. The BS Reports drop new episodes. Check that out as well. Last episode of the Lost Ring series. And of course, if you're looking for extra content and special privileges, join Section 145 Club now, because Upload will give you insider scoops and some pretty cool, I want to say gadgets, but I know that's not the right word. Why is it always when I'm finishing that I just can never hit that right word? Shame on me. I've got to do better. That's on me. Thanks, Shizzy. We appreciate you. We appreciate you all. So, guys, we're out of here. We'll be back next Monday, finishing up the Lost Ring series. And, of course, maybe we'll talk about the Hall of Fame game. There's nothing else going on, so we might as well talk a little bit of football. Just that little taste to get you through. So, Tyler, hope everything goes well for you this week. And really excited to get back here and talk football with you once again.
Same here.
That'll do it for us, guys. You all have a great night. Have a great week, even. So for Tyler Staggs, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Tighten up.
You're watching the Titan Upload Network.